why in 2023 is it so important for us to talk about minerals, and what is a mineral? Because it seems to be the buzz right now.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's really interesting is there is a term now that it was coined by the World Health Organization for mineral deficiency, and it's called the hidden hunger. So why are we talking about it? Because we're experiencing a pandemic of the hidden hunger.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, what do they mean by that? Like a mineral deficiency makes us hungry, or like our body's hungry for minerals? Dr. Mindy here.
Your body is in a war zone.
Different parts of the brain get activated depending upon how stressed you are.
When you look at it from that inflammatory.
That's interesting. I mean, that has some merit to it for sure.
And you can't control everything.
I'd say.
And what about a woman who is not pregnant, but she's aiming?
So, Caroline, here's where I want to start the mineral conversation, because I think it's really interesting. I've studied nutrition since I was 16. I've taken supplements since I was like 5. Like my mom, every morning we would get to the breakfast table and there would be a pile of supplements waiting for us that my mom had customized for us. I literally remember as a child going into the health food store before there was a Whole Foods, and like the smell of those old-fashioned health food stores. So I've been around this so much, and yet we've never had such a cultural conversation on minerals like we are having in this day and age.
That is right.
So can we start off with like, why in 2023 is it so important for us to talk about minerals, and what is a mineral? Because it seems to be the buzz right now.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's really interesting is there is a term now that it was coined by the World Health Organization for mineral deficiency, and it's called the hidden hunger. So why are we talking about it? Because we're experiencing a pandemic of the hidden hunger.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, what do they mean by that? Like a mineral deficiency makes us hungry, or like our body's hungry for minerals?
Literally, what does a cell that does not have enough minerals crave? It craves sugar and salt. Because what it's looking for are electrolytes, minerals. Electrolytes are minerals, and it's also looking for any way that it can generate energy. So when you think about your body, you've got like 37 trillion cells in your body, and every single cell runs off 2 things, minerals and amino acids. That's what fuels the mitochondria inside the cell.
Wow.
So what are we doing now? We're drinking bottled water, filtered water. It's got no minerals. We're eating foods that have been grown in production farming, where when a plant grows in the soil, do you know how it makes the plant? It sucks the minerals out of the soil. So they've actually had mineral deficiency issues with soil since the 1930s. They had a whole session in Congress about it in the 1930s, and they really have done nothing about it. Okay.
Wow.
So the soils are depleted of minerals. The foods we're eating are mineral deficient. Your body is mineral deficient. They actually, most scientists who study in this world say that we have maybe 35 to 40% of the minerals in our body that we need.
Wow.
So it's like if we took these lights and we dialed them down to 40%, that's how most of us are operating.
What part of the cell do the minerals help nourish?
Yeah. So inside your cells, there's this energy generating unit called the mitochondria. And it's kind of cool. Like inside a skin cell on your arm, you have maybe 12 to 14 mitochondria. Inside your heart, like 4,000 to 5,000 mitochondria in a single cell. In your eyes, like 40,000 mitochondria in a single cell. In your brain, there's way more, okay? So, and each mitochondria has a life cycle, and it requires these cofactors to generate energy. So every piece of energy, my hands moving, us talking, the sound of my voice, all of it is energy that had to be generated somewhere, and it's generated in the mitochondria. And that mitochondria is fueled via, that energy is fueled via these cofactors of minerals and amino acid. I mean, look around this room. Everything is made of minerals. If you took all the water out of your body, you'd be a little pile of minerals.
So why do we go, oh, take your vitamins?
But nobody ever mentions minerals.
Yeah, like I'm thinking, like when you explain it like that, and I'm a geek for the mitochondria, and we were just talking with Lat about where the densest amount of mitochondria is, and this is like my new insight that I'm trying to send out to the world. In the female body, do you know what has the most amount of mitochondria?
No, what is it?
It's our eggs.
Oh, of course, that makes sense.
Because all the genetic wisdom that's in there, how strong the egg has to be. Also, do you know something else about the egg that is so cool? Is that it actually sends a chemical message out and invites the most well-suited sperm to enter her for fertilization. It's the egg that chooses the sperm, and it's done through a chemical messenger. So then my brain says, when we think about the minerals, it's like, yeah, that's how powerful we are. I just want to point that out. But when I think about that, I'm like, oh my God, when we look at infertility rates.
Exactly.
And and if those eggs have, I don't even know how many mitochondria they have, but if they're not getting the minerals, could that be like one of the
and if the
challenges?
sperm also doesn't have the minerals, the egg might be looking for sperm that has enough minerals to generate the energy to swim up the, and you see, so the mineral deficiency has so many. I mean, all of the entire electrical system in your body, which includes all of the neurotransmitter connections. I mean, everything is generated with minerals. When you follow, as when I did the study that I did, when I followed it all the way down, it's all about electrical transference of energy through vibration.
Crazy.
What is the difference
So
between...
it's like a spark.
Yes. Yeah.
It creates like a spark.
Yes.
So, and it's interesting because I spent many years studying the Krebs cycle, and it's very complicated.
Very complicated.
But the one thing I remember is that if I think of it in terms of a circle,
Yes.
it was like it needed certain minerals.
Yes.
Primarily, it needs some vitamins too. It has to go in to make the Krebs cycle circle continue so that it can spit out ATP.
Which is energy.
Right.
Yes. So here's the interesting thing. What happens when that mineral, it hits a certain stage of its Krebs cycle and that mineral is not available? What happens is that mitochondria goes into, it's not able to generate enough energy, and the cell ultimately ends up going into an anaerobic function. And the way I like to think about it, like if you go to the gym and first you're aerobic, and then at a certain point, the reason your muscle gets tired is because the cells in that area doesn't have enough energy, and the cells are going into an anaerobic function. The difference is that a cell that works aerobically and has all the minerals available can generate like 12 units of energy, not the cell, the mitochondria.
Right.
Like 12 units of energy, of ATPs, whereas when it's in anaerobic function, it's 1.
Wow.
So it's 1/12. So as this life cycle is occurring, and what happens is basically amino acids and minerals come together as cofactors at each stage in this Krebs cycle. And when they're not available, literally your body can't generate enough energy.
Okay, so the intersection of amino acids, minerals, hormones, and neurotransmitters has become like this massive fascination for me, because I feel like when we enter our 40s and go into our perimenopausal time and then into our menopausal years, that we're not giving enough credit to these really important concepts, like you're going to lose more estradiol, you're going to lose more progesterone if you're more mineral and amino deficient. Mm-hmm. And if you lose those, now you're going to lose serotonin, dopamine, acetylcholine, and GABA. So it's like a house of cards that just falls apart as a woman goes into her perimenopausal years.
And if you're dealing with glyphosate exposure, that is exponentialized.
Because glyphosate grabs onto minerals.
Well, first of all, it grabs onto minerals, and second of all, it interrupts the development of very specific amino acids that are precursors for serotonin, for melatonin, so sleep, mood, really, and we could get into the complexities of that,
Right.
but yeah.
And so the other interesting thing as I connect the dots in my own mind, chatting with you, is that I think, again, why are we overcomplicating health? Like, we have all these new challenges, and again, my passion being hormonal challenges, but the debate in the menopause world right now is like HRT or no HRT, or bioidenticals or no bioidenticals. And I think this is a really interesting debate, but we are missing the elephant in the room, which is we are missing key nutritional substances that we need to make these neurochemicals in our body.
Yes.
So why do you think, like, today in 2023, why are we talking about this now?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of reasons. I think there's been a shift from the medical doctors. I mean, doctors aren't trained at all in nutrition. They've never been told anything. I mean, maybe 1 hour in their entire medical training of, nutritional background. So I think what's happening is people are starting, I actually think one of the reasons is from people doing keto. Because when people did keto and became more mainstream, people started experiencing extreme electrolyte depletion, and they started having to learn about, I need electrolytes. The same way years ago people didn't know anything about probiotics, right? We didn't know about the gut microbiome, et cetera. And so there was this big push. People started to learn. Like now, most people know, probiotics. You should take those, or whatever, or you should use those at some point, especially if you have antibiotics or whatever.
Right.
I mean, the lowest level of knowledge has heard of them, and that's what's happening with minerals. I really think minerals, the knowledge about minerals and supplementation, is going to become the vanguard of health. I mean,
I could line my thinking up with that. I feel like, again, I'm my heart's warming when you're like, I think it's the keto movement, and I thought, maybe I had something to do with all the people understanding about minerals, and I really, it was. I'll tell you the insight that I gained when I first started doing what we call fast training weeks.
Yes,
which is where we would fast people all over the world, and we would ask for feedback, and we would do it 5-day period once a month. And what I started to notice is how many people, when they went into a fasted state, lost their hair, started getting heart palpitations, and got really dizzy. And some people got headaches, some people got the rashes, but it was like all these symptoms were showing up. And when we started playing with the different pieces of minerals, it was like those symptoms went away.
Yes.
So I literally, after my first year of doing fast training week with the world, I came out of that and went, we're mineral deficient as a culture. I'm watching it on my YouTube channel.
Exactly.
So then that takes me to why. Why are we mineral deficient? What is it that are we not getting in our food? Is it
exactly? You cannot get enough minerals from the foods you eat. You cannot, because the minerals. What's happened in our production farming is that there's two big reasons. One is that when you grow plants, the structure in that plant is made from minerals, and it's sucked out of the soil. So the soil is deficient. And so literally the nutrition level of the foods that we eat today is not the same. I say it's not your mother's broccoli that you're eating anymore if you eat broccoli.
Okay, what if I go to a regenerative farm?
Even then. Because it doesn't matter. Even if you're growing it in your backyard, organic garden, every time you grow food in soil, unless you put the minerals back into the soil, you are depleting that soil of minerals. Now, people put compost and things like that, but this is where we get into the plant-based minerals and the humic and fulvic, which are truly the Mother Nature's technology for mineral replenishment in soils, in all cellular systems across the earth, in humans. I mean, it is the mineral replenishment technology.
Okay, and I want to dive into that because even in all my knowledge, when I first saw your products, I was like, Fulvic, Humic, I don't know what's going on here. Somebody tell me, and I want to learn that today.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to one other thought because here's what I want people listening to really gather is that our soils are depleted. Even if we're doing regenerative and at home, that was really interesting. I have a thought on that. Remind me to tell you. We've got glyphosate that's pulling it out. Most people aren't even eating enough vegetables.
Exactly.
And we don't even know how much vegetables we're supposed to be eating. Let's just be honest. And then we've got gut dysbiosis. So if your gut's multiple antibiotics.
Absorption issues.
Let's put it under that. And then we've got stress.
Yes.
And the more stressed we are, the more we need these minerals.
And we're drinking filtered and bottled water, which is huge. And I think this is the piece that's tipped it over the edge. Because who drinks people do drink tap water.
Yeah.
They shouldn't because of all the other things in it. But it does have minerals.
Yeah.
So when you take all the minerals, when you filter all the minerals out, so what's happening is young kids, I don't know about you, but if you did sports when you were a kid, were you coming off the field or your compatriots coming off with cramps? No. Now, I talk to parents all the time, and their kids are having major problems if they're doing sports. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're all drinking the filtered and bottled water.
Yeah, and then they're just sweating it all
and they're
out.
just sweating it all out.
And then we got the biohacking movement that's in their infrared saunas all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right.
I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah.
So there's really not a human on the planet that isn't immune from this hidden hunger. Exactly. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So, okay. So once hopefully everybody's got that, and I'll share a little bit because I've been trying these for several months now, and I've seen some really interesting changes that I want to share in a moment with you. But once I understand this deficiency, and I go, okay, perhaps I'll give it a try. How do I know? I mean, I can walk into my local drugstore and grab some minerals. How do I know the difference between minerals?
Right. And this is the key. I always say most people have a cabinet at home filled with bottles of pills, and a lot of them are minerals. Because first of all, who wants to take all those pills every day?
Right.
And second of all, they didn't feel any difference.
Yeah. Right.
And it's because, you know why? Because they don't work.
Right.
They actually don't work.
I do like liquids better than pills, by the way. They're so much easier. In fact, your products I do every morning when I'm making my coffee. I do it in the morning. Yeah. So which we can talk about if that's right or not. But yeah, pills. And so what about absorption of pills? Are pills less absorbed?
So let's talk about the replenishment system in the body. This is like if you're going to learn one thing in a year about your body and about health, I think this is the most empowering thing you can learn.
Okay.
Because it's not only going to help you understand minerals, it's going to help you understand your body, and it's going to help you understand all of the other supplementation you're taking and how useful is it. It's going to help you vet things, okay? So it has to do with this word bioavailability. This is a word that gets bandied about a lot. People
sure
talk
does.
about it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So, but it has these 3 stages. The first is digestion. So the first question is, how well does something you put in your mouth actually get digested? And that has to do with what it's made of, but it also has to do with how well your gut is working.
Right.
And the thing I learned that blew my mind is, unless something that you eat digests all the way down to its ionic chemical components, it cannot be absorbed. And if it is being absorbed, it's because you have gut dysbiosis, and now it's going to cause problems, meaning leaky gut.
So, okay, let me think that through for a moment. So you're saying that even if I go to my farmer's market and I buy the healthiest broccoli I can find.
That's right.
And I come home and I eat it raw, I don't even cook it. My gut isn't able to break it down into a usable amount.
Well, it might, depending on the health of your gut.
Okay.
Okay. Some portion of it is going to come through your bowel, undigested. Just look in the toilet, you'll see.
Right.
Depending on how well your gut is working that day, you'll see how well the food actually, But I mean, sometimes when I have problems, I'm like, wow. That stuff's coming through. It's not digested.
Yeah.
Other times things look really well digested, right?
Right.
So the way it's supposed to work is all that stuff's supposed to be totally broken down, and the only stuff that goes through is the fiber.
Right.
You see?
Okay.
The stuff that doesn't, it's all the nutrients have been sucked out of it down and digested down to their ionic components. And the interesting thing is, so your gut is lined, and you know this, the gut is lined with these things called villi, and they kind of look like fingers. And each of those fingers is lined with these epithelial cells. And each one of those cells is lined with these receptor sites. And each receptor is specific.
For what?
For like magnesium or magnesium citrate or magnesium gluconate or potassium. I mean, they are specific, and you have a lot of them for magnesium, but you have a very small important amount for things like phosphorus or molybdenum or chromium.
Are they only for minerals? Are they for vitamins?
They're for, well, then there's, of course, there are receptors for sugars and, other nutritional elements, salts, nutritional elements. Salts are really minerals too, okay? But most of them are minerals. Think about it.
That is crazy.
Isn't that mind-blowing?
That's mind-blowing, because
So-
receptors to me are like the body's way of saying, this is what I need.
Exactly.
Because they're like little, to me, they're like little gloves that are like, hey, let me catch that. I got to catch this. I got to catch hormones. I got to have, and like, yeah. I never heard that.
Isn't this amazing?
Yeah, it's totally
This
amazing.
completely blew my mind. So I thought, here's this guy who's an athlete, and somebody says, he has cramping, and somebody says you need magnesium. So he takes all this magnesium, okay? And he's flooding his gut with magnesium. Doesn't matter. He only has so many receptors.
Ah.
Okay?
So
He's not, and that's why we say Americans have the most expensive urine in the world, because we're taking all these supplements, and most of it is just washing out through the urine.
Can it get like insulin resistance, where if you get too many things flooding at those receptors at the same time?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, but what does happen is it creates imbalance in the gut. Okay. So think about the way this is what's so amazing is we tend to think, someone along the line said, you have a minimum daily requirement of this much magnesium and 240 milligrams of potassium, whatever, which is ludicrous, because why should you have the same amount that is needed than me or some performance athlete or somebody who sits on the couch all day or whatever? I mean, we all, in the size of our body, everything, the way our bodies operate, everyone, it's very specific. Now, in its incredible, infinite wisdom, the body said, that's okay. You need as much as you need. I need as much. We'll flood the system, and it will just have the right amount of receptors. So now, what happens when we put a huge amount of 320 milligrams of magnesium into your system? Do you know what it does? It starts trying to balance that with calcium, and it pulls calcium out. So what happens with performance athletes as they age, they've been taking all this is an example of what I'm talking about.
Right.
They actually start getting osteoporosis because they've taken so much magnesium that their body is trying to balance by pulling the calcium out of their bones. So this is what I'm talking about. This is a complete paradigm shift about how we think. Our body is not a car. It doesn't work like that. You can't say, I need gas, put in gas, I need oil, fill the reservoir of magnesium or potassium. It doesn't work like that. It's these receptor sites. So what we need to do is start infusing our system in a very balanced way with minerals that support the overall homeostasis of our gut.
It's the word homeostasis keeps coming up in all the work that I've been doing, because when we look at hormones, there's this tendency to be like, well, if I'm a menopausal woman, I need more progesterone. I should get as much progesterone as possible. But if you get too much progesterone, you throw off estrogen. Yeah. Very much like what you just said with magnesium and calcium.
Calcium, yes.
So, and yet our culture is very focused on more is better.
Yes.
But what I just heard is when we're dealing with the human body, more is not only not better, but it could be harmful.
Yes. And the thing that I think we've been learning, we're all grown, and as we learn, we swing too far to the right or left or wherever, and the thing that I'm wanting to help people understand is the body is a homeostasis engine. Your body, every second, every millisecond of every day, it is working to clean things up, fix things, create balance. If you put too much magnesium in, it will start flushing that magnesium really fast to get rid of it. You know, it's doing it's giving you Herxheimer symptoms because you've got some toxin. It's an incredibly
Super incredible.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
So the thing about minerals is what minerals do is they support that entire homeostasis engine. Because if you can support every mitochondria to be able to generate the energy inside the cell to keep the cell operating aerobically so that all of the processes, when you're fasting, those autophagy processes that are so amazing. I wanted to tell you a story later, but I'll tell you later, about autophagy and how powerful it is. But if you can support the body, the energy generation engine of the body, then all of those balancing, fixing, removing processes are fueled.
They
You
actually
can
work.
They actually take place. The
Yeah.
hormone balance, the adrenal balance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't want to get off autophagy.
Yeah.
And you can tell me your story in a moment, because what I'm thinking now is, I know we probably don't have any studies on this, but could we make the correlation that if I go into a 20-hour fast and I'm in a state of autophagy and I'm locked and loaded with a lot of minerals, my autophagy process, the ability of my body to use autophagy as a self-healing, self-cleaning tool is going to be better. Whereas if somebody's mineral depleted and they go into a 20-hour fast, they're not getting as deep of an autophagy experience. Could that be, is that possibility exist?
Absolutely.
So that,
Because autophagy itself is a cellular process that is fueled with ATPs generated by the mitochondria.
so if the
see?
so if the mitochondria doesn't have enough minerals, then it can't make enough ATP, which can't fuel the autophagy process.
People get dizzy and they get, all of those symptoms that you described, which is why the minerals in the electrolyte support for people who are fasting is so important, right?
such a deeper.
Isn't it cool?
I love it. This is why I love conversations like this. But here's what's interesting to me is I can tell you when I first went out into the world trying to talk about, I did something called the timeline benefits chart of fasting. And I was like, at 8 hours, it does this, at 10, 20. And that was like a big thing that I did for a while. And people would debate me. They're like, no, at 17, autophagy doesn't kick in. At 17, it does this and that study. And we get in these science studies. And what I always want to think about is that science gets us in the ballpark, but we need nuance. We need conversations like this so that people understand that science is just helping us give us broad explanations of what might be going on. But we need to get to the biggest root that we can get to if we want to understand the human body. And two of the things we've talked about today, the power of the mitochondria and homeostasis, are two things that I think we can't emphasize enough.
So, and the person who says, no, it's 17 hours or whatever, if a person was fully mineralized, maybe it would happen in 6.
Right.
I don't know.
Well,
you see? You see?
Right. So I just
Right.
I just saw a study because I'm writing my next book on serotonin, and that there was fasting could actually activate the 5-HT2A serotonin receptor site, which is my new fascination, in only 8 hours of fasting.
Interesting.
I'm like, how is it doing that in 8 hours? But it again, if we always say, well, why is the body working? The body's always working for you. Always.
Always working for
It just might not feel like that, but it's always working for you. So with this understanding that minerals help us bring normal processes back, how would one know, outside of some of the symptoms that we talked about, that they had a mineral deficiency? Do we have like classic signs of it?
Yes, there are many classic signs and ones that you wouldn't think of.
Okay.
Like, are you waking up a lot at night?
Oh.
Mineral deficiency. Why is that? Because think about your nervous system. When I say it's like having 37 trillion hangry cells. So literally it takes your nervous system and it amps it up. And it's hard to sleep when your entire nervous system is hungry and can't quite get what it needs and is looking for it. That's your entire nervous system. So I personally have had a lifetime of insomnia. I have no insomnia.
And
I
so,
wake up one time a night.
and how old are you? Just because we put.
That's a secret.
Sorry. Okay. Let me just say, are you postmenopausal?
Yes.
That's all. Sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
I'm just joking.
Just so you know,
just joking.
every woman I meet, I ask how old they are because I think of women in terms of their menopausal journey. So that's
here's my thing is when I go to the doctor and they ask you to write down your birth date and then they say how old are you, and I always write ageless.
Oh yeah, because you don't want to be defined by your age.
Yeah, because I've decided I'm as old, and one day I wake
Yeah.
up and I feel 50, and the other day I wake up and I feel 35, and the
Yeah.
other day I wake up and I feel 80. So
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I had a patient years ago that said it was her birthday and she was not happy about it, and I think she was turning like 60. And she said, I've decided I'm telling people I'm 10 years older. I'm telling them I'm 70 because then they look at me and they're like, you look so good.
Right.
Like, oh, I didn't. That's a strategy for
right,
sure.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I should start telling
Yeah.
people I'm 80.
Right, exactly. So
Anyway.
you're postmenopausal and you're sleeping through the night. That's a miracle unto
Yeah.
itself. So,
It is.
Yeah, so that's a biggie. Okay, so sleep is one.
So just regular headaches, of course, because electrolyte deficiency always creates some sort of headache stuff. Okay, skin issues
Such as?
like rough skin, just not like no shine to your skin. It looks like flat.
Okay.
That
is one of the symptoms I noticed when I started doing the B minerals regularly. Is when I do, the days I do them, it took about a couple weeks, I noticed that my skin looked moister. And, as a menopausal woman, it's like, yeah. And you can even feel your skin. Some mornings I wake up and I go, oh, estrogen, where'd you go, girl? Like she's gone. But that was one of the things that I noticed.
Yeah.
Was skin moisture.
Yeah.
So shine, you could call it shine.
Yes, exactly. I feel like there's a shine to it. It's
Yeah.
not flat because probably it is just moisture.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
And-
dry, flat, non-shiny skin.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And hair loss.
Hair loss. Yeah.
And the way I like people to think about minerals like because they generate all the energy in your body. If your light is operating at 40%, what's going to go? The stuff that's not really important to basic fundamental foundational.
My hair's
and
not important.
Hair isn't not really. I mean,
You're right.
ultimately,
No,
it's your
I know,
heart,
yeah.
your kidney,
Yeah.
your lungs. Those are the most important. You see.
Interesting.
So your blood, it's going to focus on the basics and other things. Those things like sleep. Well, you can kind of get by. Well, the sleep is really not. The sleep is about the nervous system.
right.
That. So cramping. I just had a conversation with somebody about this, but I say that all cramping in the body, menstrual cramping, tension headaches, of course, leg cramping, fasciculation, they call it the creepy crawlies. These, even a heart attack is a local mineral deficiency.
Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting.
So to remove cramping in the body, you have to provide a full spectrum of minerals. Because it might be phosphorus.
Yeah,
It
how
might
do you
be
know?
It
Right.
might be the imbalance between calcium and magnesium. That's
What do you think? Now you got me thinking about the menstrual cramping, and I think I want to rebrand every aspect of female health.
Yes.
But one of them has been the menstrual cycle.
Yes.
I think it's a form of detox.
Exactly.
It's a shedding. And when we have cramps, it's telling us that one of two things, that we have a lot of toxins that are coming out, or we could also, what are we resisting? What are we trying to hold on to? Because I also feel like there's an emotional shedding that happens to us every month that we don't acknowledge. So do you lose minerals in the menstrual cycle?
Absolutely. Think of all the blood. There's
It would make-
tons of
right.
minerals in there.
And
Absolutely.
We talk a little bit about iron. That's kind of so. If a woman is going the first couple of days of her cycle, if she's cramping, if she's tired, if she's moody, minerals would be a very interesting first place to go.
I'm telling you that I just literally walked into my gym the other day, this woman who works there, and I had given her some minerals, and she has terrible monthly cramping. And she said, come in my office. And I went in and she's like, I just got my period. And I'm like, great. And she said, I had no cramping.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And I hear this again and again and again.
Yeah.
But you can also use this spray.
Oh, yeah.
And
tell me.
you
Yeah, we're gonna
literally just spray it on if you did.
on
have
your
cramping.
ovaries.
You spray it on your cramping uterus or lower back or wherever you have the cramps.
Okay, so let's go into your products because now you got me really intrigued.
Yeah.
But let's go into the Fulvic and the
Humic. Yeah.
I want to go into
Yeah.
what that means, and then I want you to come back to the spray idea here in a second, because what I heard in the spray is that there's a topical way to get minerals.
That's right.
in.
Transdermal minerals.
And if I've been on birth control for years and I've had a bunch of antibiotics, that might be how I'm finally going to get some minerals into my body.
Could be. Absolutely. Yeah.
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 Okay, so tell me what I
Okay.
need to know about those two differences, because that is, and then I have to report back a couple of cool things that happened to me.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah. So plant-based minerals are truly an amazing thing. And what I really want to give this description because they are Mother Nature's mineral replenishment and full system detoxification technology. Yeah. We didn't design them. We put them here. We extracted them and brought them to people, but we didn't design the technology. So here's where they come from. Imagine an entire rainforest back when the dinosaurs lived, and it decomposed over millennia into this mineral-rich substance that's called humate. And it's a crystalline, incredibly black substance. There's also other humic and fulvic substances around the earth. One is called peat. The other is called shilajit, which they have in the Himalayas. So they're different kinds of substances. The one that our products come from is this humate.
Okay.
So it comes from below the earth, so it's incredibly pure, hasn't had any contact with modern pollutants, which is really important when you're thinking about mineral supplements. And inside of this substance called humate, there's these two molecules. And one is called fulvic, and the other is called humic. And they have amazing properties and capacities. So not only do they provide a full spectrum of minerals that your body needs, like every single mineral on earth that your body needs, they also provide full system detoxification and the enhancement of nutrient uptake into your cells.
That's okay. So
Yeah.
what I find really interesting about detoxing is that it's a circuitous path,
Yes.
and everybody has a different ride with it. So what I just heard you say is that if we turn to nature
Yes.
and we find something that nature's already given us to be able to help us detoxify, why wouldn't we start with that first?
And you know, I was recently on a panel talking about glyphosate, and one of the things that I was saying is there's always been environmental toxins. Like since the earth first was formed, there's been cellular systems that need to get certain toxins out, whether it was sulfur from a volcano or whatever. So guess what? This entire earth organism provided a solution, and it's in humic and fulvic.
How did you discover this?
Literally, I just kept going down the rabbit hole. So,
Yeah.
you know, what happened to me, Mindy, is that I was in the corporate world, in the technology world, and I burned out of it. And I had flatlined adrenals for like 2.5 years. I had hormonal imbalance. I had really bad inflammation in my gut. I had been gluten intolerant all my life, but even though I had been gluten-free, I was unable to get past the gut dysbiosis and all sorts of elimination problems,
With a
et
lot of
cetera.
people.
Yes.
That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people,
Yeah.
right? And then I also had really bad inflammation in my mouth with deep pockets and receding gums, bone loss in my teeth. I had really bad sinus infections constantly every season. Now, when you have that many different symptoms, you're going to this doctor and that
Right,
doctor,
yeah.
and you're trying, and nobody's looking at the whole picture, and they don't even have any way to look at the whole picture, right? But I met my now business partner, Dan Howard, and he said, why don't you try these minerals? I was like, okay. They were easy to take. They're liquid. So I took them every day. And they tasted like water. It made it easy,
Super
you know.
easy to taste. These
And
are so tasty.
2 months later, I went to my dentist, and she looked in my mouth after having my teeth cleaned. She's like, what? I mean, she exclaimed, she's like, what's going on? The tissue in your mouth is no longer red and inflamed. It looks healthy. You had your teeth cleaned. There was no bleeding. What is going on? And I thought about it. I was like, well, I think it's these minerals. So she's like, just keep taking them. And then 4 months in, I had my adrenal test. I went to my naturopath. It's the saliva test. And she opened the book to look at the results. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So literally I had flatlined or below flatlined adrenals for 2.5 years. They were 1/3 of the way up with their natural sawtooth pattern that they should have. She was blown away.
Wow.
She had wanted me to take hydrocortisone, and I was like, I'm not doing that. So because of those two things, and then over a period, I went through the fall, I didn't get a sinus infection, and then I didn't get sick. I mean, I just started feeling better and better, and people started remarking on it, and my nervous system calmed. I was able to I had more bandwidth for the stresses of life. And as a result, I literally just said, well, how could that do that?
Right.
And I started.
Too simple.
Yeah. And I started studying. And I studied cellular biology because I started reading about these things, Humic and Fulvic, and there were all these words I didn't understand.
Yeah.
So I had to study every single word, and it just took me down into quantum biology and molecular biology and chemistry and soil composition and plant decomposition and, on and on.
Sounds like my hormonal journey.
Yeah, it does.
Like I was trying to solve my own issues and I kept going, you go to one thing and then you're like, wait, but if this connects to this and then this connects to this, and all of a sudden, here you are like years later and you're like, oh, wow. Like there's a lot to this game of health.
Right.
And I love this idea that we're in an evolutionary mismatch. That
I love that.
the human body and the modern world are not connecting right now. And we have to come back to the earth. If we want to bring health back, we're going to have to come back to the earth, which is why I love coming back to some of these simple concepts.
And in fact, it's my belief, or maybe I've been told, or it's been downloaded to me that the reason we're out of sync with the earth is because there's not enough earth in us. We're mineral deficient. If we can get the minerals back into humans, we will literally, because when you follow it all down, it all ends up with vibration. We literally can't hold the vibration properly.
Wow.
Because our minerals are all out of whack. And so that takes it in another.
Well, my brain then goes, but that is like heals like. So and also if we don't have enough earth in us, it's hard for us to respect the earth. So it's a really interesting dysfunctional relationship we have now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you think about this humate material, right?
Yeah.
And about humic and fulvic, and think the mineral content in the ratios of mineral content in these substances, in these molecules, is exactly the natural ratio that our bodies are made of. So it's already formulated.
Well, that was going to be my next question.
Isn't that cool?
Okay, that is really cool, because my next question was what I started to do. So just so fill everybody in, when I connected with you at KetoCon, I had a scan done and she said I was zinc deficient, which really actually made sense because zinc is a major precursor for hormones. And I've been on this hormonal journey, and my nails, I noticed, stopped growing. It was I noticed the period between my haircut was getting longer and longer because my hair wasn't growing. And so when she said zinc, my brain went estrogen and testosterone and progesterone. I was like, oh my God, I definitely need to make sure that I get zinc back in. And then I was like, wonder if that's my hair and nails. So I started doing, I do a capful each every day. I don't know if that was right or not, but literally within a week, my nails were growing. I've had more haircuts that back to my younger self. And I've been experimenting with bioidenticals and finding hormones that I don't need as many.
Isn't that interesting?
And then my skin, since I started taking the minerals, and I'm like, I don't know what it is, but something I'm doing, and I like to experiment with one or two things at a time so I kind of understand. So to my question is I don't need to know my mineral deficiency with your product. I can just take it and know that because it's from the earth, that I'm not going to do the magnesium calcium issue. It's not going to happen to me. Is that correct?
That's exactly. Again, because it's formulated in the same ratio as your body is utilizing and made of and needs, then you don't have to worry about that. Now, what I will say is it's absolutely possible. I don't want people to think that they should never be aware if of a deep deficiency of a particular mineral that they have. And it is good to get tested.
Yeah.
But the answer is not, again, to just think you can fill the reservoir by adding a whole bunch. If you do have specific mineral deficiencies, you have to look at it the way you did. Look at it holistically. If I'm low, if I'm having osteoporosis, well, have I been taking a lot of magnesium, or am I absorbing calcium? Maybe it's actually never getting assimilated into my cells. Into your bones are made of cells.
Right.
Do you see?
Yeah.
So
it's a little more wild west over there, is what I hear. If you're going to go after, you're going to try to move the needle on, like if I had left that scan and said, okay, I'm zinc deficient, I better up my zinc, then upping zinc may have thrown something else off.
Yeah, or you might not, or the reason you might be deficient in zinc might be because you're not assimilating it. So now you have to ask, okay, now there's all sorts of things that can get in the way of mineral absorption and assimilation, including parasites and other things. So you need to look. That's why I call this the vanguard of health, because now what can happen is we can start looking at somebody's mineral profile and go, oh, well, this might mean that they, I'm not a doctor and I don't work in this particular area. My job is to just help people begin to think about minerals and mineral replenishment. But there are amazing people who they can look at your mineral scan and say, based on what I see, they'll tell you, like, and you'll be like, yeah, that's true. Yeah. It's incredible.
So then when I take them, this is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
There's a white, there's a black. Like there's a white liquid and a black liquid. And I remember thinking, which one goes which? I don't know. So I do the white in the morning and the black at night.
That's
what's
fine.
the difference? One's Fulvic, one's
Humic. Yeah, so the Fulvic is the golden, I call it.
Okay, great.
It's the one.
Yeah, that's a little kinder
it's
than
more
white.
clear.
Yeah.
And the Fulvic, let me describe Fulvic because it's really incredible. So the Fulvic is a very, very small molecule. It's much smaller than a cell. And it's what we all know, where many people have heard of this term flavonoid. But what really is a flavonoid? It's an intercellular transporter. So, and Fulvic is the most amazing flavonoid on earth. Seriously. What it does is it carries 60 times its weight of nutrients and mineral content into the cell, and then it does what no other molecule on earth does. It changes its polarity. And when it does that, those things fall off inside the cell. Now they're available to all those mitochondria as cofactors for all of that process, the Krebs cycle. Isn't that cool?
When we think we can live without nature,
yes,
we're so ignorant.
So yeah,
like that is brilliant, that a molecule from the earth would have a polarity to allow it to go into our human cells, and then once it gets in, it changes the polarity so the cell can use it.
And then now it has a different polarity, and what clings to it? Heavy metals, bio-waste, environmental toxins like glyphosate, the detritus from autophagy, and it carries those out of the cell.
And then where does it go?
And then it changes its polarity again, and those things drop off in the bloodstream. Now we have the black one, this microboost, which is the humic molecule. And these fulvic and humic molecules, they always appear together. They have an absolutely synergistic relationship. So the humic molecule is much larger than a cell. It hangs out in the bloodstream. It's has an extremely strong electrolyte charge, and it has a huge amount of surface area with all these receptor sites on the outside, and it binds with free radicals. So it's exponentially thousands of times more effective than any superfood mix or any of those things as an antioxidant. It chelates with heavy metals. it also removes and remediates glyphosate in your system and other environmental toxins. And ultimately, that molecule gets so heavy at a molecular weight, it falls out of solution and it leaves your body through all the elimination channels. And that's the key. So we know from a lot of detox people, understand that when you're doing a detox protocol, you need to make sure certain channels are open.
Right.
So that the detox will happen as opposed to
Yeah,
clogging your
detox
liver,
channels,
your
yeah.
kidney, et cetera. And the beautiful thing about Humic, which is again why I call it a technology that Mother Nature designed, is it uses every single channel, whatever one is open. It uses your tears, your saliva, your snot, your breath, your rubbing your hands together anytime, all of this is detoxification, actually. Of course, it uses your skin. It uses your feces and urine, of course, as well.
So it's like activated charcoal. We often recommend activated charcoal when people are detoxing, but that's only going after the gut.
Right, exactly.
A zeolite
Exactly.
is another thing that we've used a lot, but that's because it can cross the blood-brain barrier
Yes.
and get into the brain.
Yes.
What you're telling me is that it's the humic is so smart that it finds the channel the way that it's set up. It'll find the channel
and again, we could say smart, or we could just say designed.
or intelligence.
Do you see what I mean?
The intelligence.
It's
of
like
nature.
it's the technology of this intercellular detoxification. Plus, it's kind of like if you were going to design a system, you'd probably design it that way, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't make it really hard to
Right.
get rid of the bad stuff.
No.
Right?
Yeah. Well, but like a lot of things with nature, I think it's better designed than even this crazy modern world we're living in. Like nature just has figured it out. So.
Yes.
So then, would you take the electrolyze in the morning and the microboost at night?
The beautiful thing about these, again, that's so cool, is you can take them anytime. You can take them on an empty stomach. They won't break a fast. They have no caloric content. They don't require any digestion at all.
Yeah.
So the minute that you drink them, they start absorbing through the lining of your mouth, your esophagus. By the time they hit your stomach, some of the mineral content is already being utilized by your body. We've learned, because we've been trying to hack our bodies, through science, to that, okay, I should take this thing at this time of day, or this with food, or this without food. But guess what? Mother Nature made it really easy. Do it anytime. Because you know where you used to get this? Because you'd go to the stream or the pond where the humic and fulvic was being created when the plants were decomposing, or it was in the soil, and animals would just drink it. Wow. Do you see?
So I can do I just for ease, I can do a cap in the morning of each, and I'm good.
You could, yeah. Now, again, because the humic is a detoxification agent for people who are very, very sensitive. They have maybe Lyme's, or they have autoimmune, or they know they're sensitive because they take a small amount of anything and they feel it, okay?
Right.
And they tend towards rashes or different, what we call Herxheimer symptoms. And we do have a really great article about Herxheimer on our website that's really helpful to anybody who tends to that. Because it really demystifies it. It helps you understand, really, this is just your body saying, yay, I can get rid of all this stuff, and I'm going to do it now.
Right.
And so all you have to do is just slow it down. And the beautiful thing is, because it's not a pill, which is hard to, deal with, it's a liquid, so you can just take less and you put it in a glass of water. So if you tend to be a sensitive person, you just do what I call the slow introduction method. You would, rather than starting with a half cap, the standard amount for somebody is a half cap every day. If you take a full cap, it's definitely not going to hurt you, and it might be fantastic.
Got it.
If you use muscle testing, you could do muscle testing and say, how much should I take today, and check that way too. But the main point with the humic is that if you tend to be sensitive, to slowly introduce it, maybe start with even half a teaspoon in 4 ounces of water, and just drink that. Wait 24 hours. Did you feel anything? No. Okay, cool. Maybe do that for 2 days, 3 days, and then move slowly up.
Okay, and then the spray.
Yes.
And I'll tell you one thing I love about your guys' products is that it is liquid and sprays and things like that. I get supplement fatigue after a while, as I think a lot of people do, and it's like I can't just put another pill in my mouth.
Exactly.
So when would I use the spray?
So the spray is really cool because it's that fulvic molecule. Remember how small that molecule is? It's much smaller than a cell. So when I spray this on, I'm literally providing minerals locally directly into the tissue, right into the muscle, 3 seconds. 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000. It's already absorbed into the muscle. That's how quick it is. It also, because it's a strong electrolyte, reinvigorates the electrical system in the area. So when you have menstrual cramps, if you spray it on, I mean, literally, I woke up this morning with a sore neck. I sprayed it on. I was like, I swear, every time I use it, I'm like, this isn't going to work. And then I'm like, oh,
Look at that.
wow,
Yeah.
that really worked.
So could you spray it over your thyroid if you were having a thyroid challenge?
You could. I mean, I'm not going to tell you it's going to heal your thyroid,
Right.
you know? That's an interesting thought. I should
Yeah.
try that.
I was thinking, I'm thinking,
it's
I
So-
love your ovary idea. I'm like, where else can you spray it? And then my other question on that is it's the most localized way.
Yes.
to do
So
that.
the way I think about it is these ingestibles, they're for chronic depletion. They work throughout your entire body. This is for acute depletion. So I actually use this at my desk because I spend a lot of time at the computer and my eyes get tired. And I literally just open my eyes like that. And because I have so many mitochondria in there, it feels amazing.
Could I spray it on,
Yeah.
my prefrontal cortex?
Yes, you could.
I'm going to spray it on my thyroid.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I'll try my eyes.
Yeah. You kind of blink them.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
what you do. You kind of blink and spray.
Doesn't really
and
stink.
kind of far away. Yeah, no. So the beautiful thing about it is, and you can feel your skin after it dries is incredibly smooth. It leaves no residue. It has no scent. And it's
it doesn't have a
literally just minerals and water. And not only just minerals and water, it's also the delivery system for the minerals into the cells in the local area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we can give them to our dogs, to our animals.
You can. And in fact, because particularly dogs who walk outside, their noses are right down where a lot of the glyphosate is in all of the, landscaping areas along the road.
We lost one of our favorite dogs, best dog we've ever had, to lymphoma.
Yes.
And when we asked the holistic vet that we went to what was going on, she said the same thing, that the dogs are down on the ground. They're getting the toxins almost worse than we
The
are.
lead, all of the stuff from the carbon monoxide, all of
So
that.
hard to, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, what do I need to know? Like, could I overdo it?
What I don't want anyone to go home and take like a cup of this, but I think it really depends on your lifestyle. If you go and work out hard 4 times a week and sweat, you could easily take more than the half cap each. But let me tell you how these work. The cool thing about this is what we've got is 2 tools. Now you've got 2 tools in your toolkit. This one is about detoxification and immune system enhancement.
So the microboost. Okay,
Yes.
And it's the darker one.
And it's the dark one.
And it's humic.
And it's also about, like, let's say you're gluten intolerant and you go out to a restaurant, you get glutenized, you feel like crap, take another extra half cap of microboost. Boom. Or you go out with some friends and you have an alcoholic drink and you don't drink very often and you just have a half cap of that. You'll wake up, you won't have a hangover.
So it's situational.
So you can use you use this foundational amount, which is just the half cap each, but then you have a tool in your toolkit for removal of toxins. If you feel a cold coming on, if you feel any itchy back throat, or that feeling like you just take it a little extra of this, boom, it takes it out. Okay, this one, the Fulvic, is about electrolyte replenishment. Now, I know lots of people are using LMNT or they're using other. I probably shouldn't be saying that, but they're using salt-based electrolyte replenishment. And I am on a mission to help people understand, first of all, salt-based electrolyte replenishment is not good for the body when used on a regular basis. It's not bad if you are acutely electrolyte deficient and you're about to pass out or you have heat stroke, get some salt. But used on a regular basis, it's irritating to the lining of the bladder and the kidney, and it is not good for you. People who use salts a lot for electrolytes, they get cracked lips, they get weird stuff associated with their mucosa in their mouth.
Wow.
It's not, I mean, you think about it. What happens if you go swimming in the ocean for a long time and the way your skin looks?
Yeah, that's a good
You
analogy.
see?
Yeah,
It's you know, so it's actually dehydrating to your body. Okay. So these are not salt-based, and now you've got this incredible electrolyte replenishment tool that not only will give you the full spectrum of electrolytes, but it works like that because it requires no digestion. So when you use a powder or a flavored drink or any of those kinds of electrolytes that require digestion, it takes like 30 to 35 minutes before you really have an effect.
Interesting.
This works immediately.
Well, this has been fascinating.
Absolutely.
Again, it's been fun because I've known about your product for about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. And the first time I got it, I was like, I don't really understand what this all is. And then when I had my nutrients tested, I was like, okay, maybe I should test this. And then I gave it a go. And I think the proof is in the pudding for sure. Like the proof is in the minerals, we should say. I really could see a difference. So.
And I'm super excited for your audiences that are using fasting and intermittent fasting. I'm telling you, I had a friend who just did a water fast for 6 days, and all she used was water and the minerals in the water.
Yeah, it would be really interesting to do in a fasted state to see if it mitigates how people feel when they're fasting.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of applications that are really, really fascinating.
Right.
So, okay, I got to finish up on my 2 questions that I love asking everybody. This season, I really wanted to emphasize how people practice self-love. I think primarily because I'm learning, how to take time and really nourish myself. So do you have a self-love practice? And if so, what is it? And then the second question is, what's your superpower? What do you bring to the world?
Thank you. That's so sweet. My self-love practice is a practice I learned from a man named Ihaliakala Hugh Len who taught Ho'oponopono, and he's passed. And in the Ho'oponopono, we have a beautiful process that's called the care of the child. And so every day when I first come awake in the morning, I spend some time with my child, and I ask her, tell her about the day, and ask her,
your inner child.
Yeah,
like
and
or the
in the
child
Hawaiian
version of you?
Hawaiian perspective, it's not necessarily the inner child the way we think of it in the West, but you could call it my subconscious.
Right.
And I just kind of, give her a little chance to just to be with her without having to go and do stuff and get a lot of stuff done, and it's a beautiful, amazing process.
Oh, that's incredible.
And I do it every day.
Oh my God, so smart, so smart. I love that. I do a gratitude practice. I spend 20 minutes every day just thinking of all the things I'm grateful for. And I'm going to add that in. And it's been a really fun exercise. And the days that I really get it clicked in, I'm like, those are the best days.
Yeah.
We've been calling them Mr. Rogers days. Like the days that you just feel
the
love.
Mr. Rogers days. Oh my God, I love that.
It's a new term I came up with, Connie,
That is
my
great.
assistant. Yep.
Mr. Rogers days.
Mr. Rogers. Today's Mr. Rogers Day, which means everything's going to be great in the neighborhood and there's going to be a lot of love and service and it's all good.
I think I'm going to take that too, because gratitude is, as an entrepreneur, we tend to look up the hill
so true.
instead of looking at what's been created and being grateful. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course, take it. Okay.
What
and
was the other one?
Superpower. What's your superpower?
My superpower is that I can see really large maps, I call it. It's like I have the ability to see connections between things that normally, I call it kind of cross silo. Like I can see just really large things that appear disconnected to some people, but I see the connection between them.
Oh my gosh. It's interesting you say that because I've been really reflecting upon what my superpower is, and I think our superpowers change over time. But one of the things I've been telling people is like, I think I have the ability to look at patterns, and for me, it's been patterns of women and what they're suffering with, and how do we look at health a little bit different. So I do think that is a unique skill set to be able to take a lot of information in and see what the common thread is.
Yes, I think that and I think from seeing your work that you absolutely must have that capacity to synthesize like large data sets into very clear messages that can really help people. It's a beautiful thing. I thank you for the work you're doing in the
Oh,
world.
thank you. I just, as I started this, my passion has been rebranding women's health because it's really stuck in a place that's not serving us. So, which is again why a product like this for me, I think of those patterns. I think of my brain in this conversation was going, well, okay, what about women deal with this and women deal with that? And then I go, oh yeah, let's take it down to the cellular level. Like, it's really fun when you start to see the formula evolve like that. So thank you for this, and I'm not getting off it anytime soon.
Awesome, good.
So just appreciate you, Caroline, and
Thank you.
for coming into my home here and flying all the way here and having this experience with me. So appreciate you.
Thank you so much.